Good morning. This is Gloria Taylor Brown, and this is a gathering of priestesses. This is a special edition with Miss Abigail McBride. We have, of course, with us today our co-host, Catherine Ravenwood, tarot reader extraordinaire, high priestess, ceremonialist, and so on. I just got an incredibly lovely endorsement for Raven, and someone said I was actually right, that she is the best tarot reader they've ever had. So I just want to pass that on. You know, she is available, and we will give you information later on how to get in touch with her. And I'd also like to introduce Abigail McBride, magician, musician, dancer, author, massage therapist, and the high priestess of a high priestess of the family of fire.
Thank you very much, Gloria, Catherine. It's wonderful to be with you both this morning, and to everyone who's tuning in live time or who's watching this at some point in the future, thank you for making the choice to be with us right here and right now. As we begin, I would like to invite all of you to take a moment, perhaps to close your eyes if you like, and to tune into your breath. With merciful compassion and awareness, without trying to change anything, just tuning in to your state of breathing in this moment, knowing that each breath is a miracle, knowing that every moment is a gift. We begin from a place of gratitude, gratitude to the source of life for bringing us safely to this moment here and now. And I ask that our time together be for the highest good, that we may share in words of wisdom and inspiration, that we may grow our souls and become who we are destined to be. I give thanks for the blessings that have led us to this moment, and I ask for continued blessings as we walk the path of life together. Breathe deeply into this moment, beloveds. Welcome to the gathering of priestesses. You may open your eyes.
Thank you, Abby. That was totally beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you the question we ask of all our guests, and which is the only question we had to prepare ahead of time. So if you people out there listening, I notice we've got some I recognize here showing up. If you have questions, please type them into the chat box, and we will ask them as well. So, Abigail, tell us, what brought you onto the path of the priestess?
I love this question, Gloria. Thank you so much. I think that anyone who is brought onto the path of the priestess comes because they have a calling, comes because at some point during their lives they feel an inner pull toward the path of service, toward the path of devotion. And for me, that calling started very early. I grew up in a family that was very into spirituality and mysticism, focused through the lens of Judaism. And from a very early time, I was enchanted with the rituals, with the lighting of candles and the breathing of spices, the sitting in meditation, the coming to know the light within and around. And I was very fortunate in that my parents taught me about the side of God that has a feminine aspect, the Shekhinah. So even though I was growing up in a Jewish household, following Jewish practices, I learned a lot about mysticism and healing and goddess worship from a very early age. And I was passionate about my spirituality too. And I remember in high school, I came to my mother, who was involved in religious education, and I said, "Mom, I think I want to be a rabbi." And she said, "Abigail, you would hate it. It is filled with politics and board meetings and angry parents and congregational, you don't want that path." I said, "Oh, okay." And shortly thereafter, I started working part-time in a little souvenir shop called the Wizard's Workshop with a fine gentleman named Alan Tauber. And he really was one of the people who opened the doorway into magic for me. He would leave little flyers near the cash register, one that advertised a gathering called The Rites of Spring. And I asked him, I said, "What's this? What's this flyer for?" And he said, "Oh, I don't think you'd really be interested in that. It's just this thing that me and some of my friends go to. And, you know, if you're going to check it out, and I don't think you'd like it, but you probably don't want to read this book called The Spiral Dance. It's probably not your thing." And I immediately devoured the book and said, "What other books won't I like?" And he and Drawing Down the Moon and a number of others, which I devoured. And he said, "You know, we have this little gathering at my house once a month. It's probably not your kind of thing, but we gather on the full moons." And I started showing up to the waxing moon coven and found my way into magic that way. And the very first gathering that I went to was Rites of Spring, and that was in 1988. And that was also the first gathering that my husband, Jeff Magnus McBride, showed up at. And there was real magic afoot that year, and a number of us were there for the first time. Morwen and Jimmy Two Feathers, Morgan Baum, and a number of people came in that same year. And from the get-go, dancing around the sacred fire, I knew that I was home, and I knew that I was called to be of service. Now, I was very fortunate in that my parents had arranged for me to start piano lessons when I was 4 years old, and my mother had been singing to me since before I was born. And so I grew up in a family that was filled with music. My dad played piano and clarinet, and so music and sound was always a primary form of expression and devotion for me. And I knew that I could weave together the magic that I found in music with the magic that I felt at the fire circles. And that's really what pulled me onto the path of the priestess.
What a fabulous story. You were so lucky. So many people, you know, it's a book fell off on their foot in the library, or I've had other people say, "Oh, I don't know. I just always knew there was something more." But to have someone who is a teacher, and who was obviously a teacher of great wisdom and great skill, I mean, the very fact that he says, "Well, you probably wouldn't be interested in this," knowing that that would probably pique your interest a whole lot more than saying, "Oh, why don't you come? This is going to be something you're really going to love."
He was absolutely right. He was absolutely right. And you know, Gloria, I had always been interested in otherworldly phenomena. You know, from the time the very first time my parents took me to the library, I said, "What's this stuff called EXP? I've been hearing about EXP. What is that?" And the librarian looked at me and she said, "I think you mean ESP. Come over here." And she brought me to this section in magic and extrasensory perception, and I was very interested. And I asked my second grade teacher, "What's this ESP stuff?" He said, "Okay, let's experiment." And he gave me a deck of flashcards with strange symbols on them, like wavy lines and plus signs and circles and squares. And he sat me down at one end of the long hallway, and he sat my best friend Jossie Barber at the other end of the hallway. He said, "All right, you guys practice sending and receiving." And we were very quiet and very engaged and working very hard for many days, you know, experimenting and learning and seeing what we could do and what we couldn't do. But that interest in there's got to be more here than I see, it had always been alive in me.
Well, that's fabulous. And so in your studies of what is here and what is not, what did you find was the most effective way prior to meeting Alan that developed your abilities, your psychic skills, your ESP?
Well, really, I think we all have psychic skills, and I don't think there's anything magical about it. I think that we have our 5 senses that are obvious, right? And then we have other senses that are not as obvious. But I think that through practice and through paying careful attention, you know, all of our senses can be used in different ways. If I'm really paying attention to someone when they're speaking to me, I will notice the micro expressions of emotion that cross their face. And if I notice something, I can speak to them kindly about it. You know, I noticed when I was speaking to you, you clenched your jaw and kind of looked away. I'm wondering if maybe you're a little angry about what I just said. What's going on inside of you right now? And someone might think, oh my God, she's psychic. How did she know what I was feeling? When really all I'm doing is paying attention. You know? I think, I forget the philosopher's name who spoke about the noosphere, the connection of consciousness all around the planet. But I really do think that all consciousness is intertwined. And I think that if we pay attention, we can tune in to other people's states of consciousness, and we can speak to them kindly about it. And that can open deeper layers of understanding. You know, I think that when we spend a lot of time with someone, those strands of connection become firmer and stronger. You know, I've been married to Jeff now for almost 15 years, and we've been best friends for 26 years. And consistently, I find that I can look at his face and know what he is needing or wanting, perhaps even before he knows what he's needing or wanting. You know, or he can look at me and raise an eyebrow, and I will know exactly what he is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think that that's really psychic or magic per se, but I think that it's deepening the strands in the web of connection between us all.
Well, I think that Jeff is really an incredible magician. I've watched him perform before, and I know that he was involved with the magician who won America's Got Talent. Is that right?
Matt Ringo has been a student since Matt was 12 years old.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable.
In fact, it was kind of interesting because when I was watching it, I kept having the thought, this looks like Jeff's work. This looks like Jeff McBride's work. And when I found out afterwards that he was a student, it was like, oh, that explains it. That's why it looks like his work.
Sure.
I mean, it didn't look exact. It was obviously the performer, but there was a difference there. But, okay, so you were involved in that early on, but where did you become involved in the study of magic? M-A-G-I-C.
Well, there's many different magics, you know. I was interested in what we call conjuring magic or performance magic from a very early age. My first little boyfriend, Adam, was a magician, and he would perform tricks, and I wanted to know so badly how they were done, and he wouldn't tell me. And so I said, I could be your assistant. I could help you. And then I would learn how everything was done. And he thought this was a fine idea. So even in third grade, I was bringing things out on trays and being very helpful and smiling at the right time. And so my interest in magic really started then. But my performance of magic started when Jeff and I got together. And I guess it was in 1989 we started working together, teaching together, performing together. At that first Rites of Spring, he had told me, I'm looking for a woman musician, a drummer, to be in my show. And I had been playing drums for a couple of years, hand drums, percussion. And I said, sure. So we started working together. We've performed all over the world now. And in the beginning, I was just doing music in the show. And then I thought, you know, it would be good if I had a couple close-up magic tricks that I could do so that after the show I could show someone something. So he taught me some close-up magic tricks, and then we thought it might be nice for me to actually do some magic in the show because then he could do a costume change, and so I learned a straitjacket escape, and my knowledge of magic has grown over the years. You know, we run a magic and mystery school here in Las Vegas that teaches the art and craft of performance magic, and so over the years I've learned a great deal more. So there's the performance magic. I think there's also, you know, the magic of creativity, you know, of making something from nothing. And I think that the magic of creativity has been a part of my life since I started piano lessons at age 4. You know, I remember asking my teacher, Mr. Charles Rose, I said, you say I have to practice. How long do I have to practice for? And he said, Abby, you have to practice until you want to practice. And now, you know, I've learned about, you know, the Buddhist terms of when you have a practice, you know, you sit down to your meditation practice or you do your walking meditation practice and what it is to have a practice. And so now my practice has really become part of my spiritual path. And the range of instruments that I play has grown from piano to include all different kinds of hand percussion and the West African harp and other instruments as well, and singing, you know. So that magic of creativity continues to lead me to new and unexpected and wonderful places as well. And then there's the magic that happens at the fire circles. You know, we do these transformational celebrations of fire and magic that are based around creativity. That are based around music and drumming and movement and voice and service. And what I find the real magic for me happens when people attend our fire circles, you know, and I think the fire circle is a microcosm of our lives, which are the macrocosm. So any core issue, any trigger that someone has in what we call the waking world, in real life, it's very likely that during the course of the fire circle ceremony, which starts around 11 o'clock and goes until after sunrise, is going to get triggered, you know. So if someone's trigger is, oh, that person is looking at me funny, they're judging me, right? Then that trigger is likely to get hit in the fire circle. Oh, that person's looking at me, they're judging me. And then that person has a choice. They can do what they always do, which, well, I'm leaving. They're looking at me funny, they're judging me, I'm leaving. Or they can make a different choice and find a way to engage the magic of the fire circle through music or drumming or dance or voice or acts of service and stay in it. So that person might walk over to the rattle altar and pick up a little rattle and walk around the fire circle saying, they're looking at me funny, they're judging me, they're looking at me funny, they're judging me, they're looking at me, hey, this is kind of funny, this is kind of funny, I'm having fun. And that if they're able to stay engaged and find a way to activate one of those portals, then when they go back out into the waking world, suddenly that hot button isn't quite so hot. And that to me is the real magic of transformation and of growth. You know, we use the paradigm of alchemy, of transforming and transmuting lead towards gold. And so knowing what we're coming in with, knowing what our prime material is, what it is that we want to change, gives us the focus and the direction that we can target all the energy that we raise through our music and drumming and dancing and singing and serving. So it's a wonderful model. So that to me is the real magic.
Well, I've always been fascinated by magic with a K. And was interested in transformation and metaphysics from the time I was 5 years old. And one of the things that I was always interested in is alchemy. So being part of the alchemical process, being in that cauldron of the alchemical process has been something that has been there for me for my entire life. Mm-hmm. And it has been something that has truly transformed how I am in the world. And one of the things that, even at my age, I am still transforming. And I think that it's important to realize that we don't just transform once. It's, you know, it's like the, I was thinking about it, it's like the planet Venus, that every year the complete exterior of Venus, it exchanges and transforms. So it's never the same as it was the year before. And we have the opportunity to transform that which we thought was important into what is really important. And I think that's part of what you're doing. And with the fire circles, you know, I've heard so much about them for so many years. And I've just, you know, frankly, wish I lived in Las Vegas so I could go. But, you know, it's the concept of being in transformation on a regular basis, being part of transformation, I believe is a core principle for being a priestess.
I agree. I agree. You know, I think it is true that we are either always growing or we are dying. If we're not growing, we're dying. You know, there's only two options, right? Like we either are moving forward and evolving and becoming, or we're holding still and getting stagnant and dying. you know. And I think that there's always a balance happening. Both are always happening in different areas and different aspects. One of the phrases that I come back to repeatedly goes like this: I gracefully and easily release all that no longer serves the highest good. And that leaves me open to whatever it is in any given moment that no longer serves the highest good, to release gracefully and easily. That transformation doesn't have to be awful and painful and frightening.
No, it doesn't, but it does have, I believe it does have to occur. I think that the people that want to stay the same, the more they want to stay the same, the more problematic that becomes in their life.
I think
And
that's
as we take that position of staying the same, in other words, I want this marriage that is going to be exactly like this the rest of my life. Well, it's not going to happen. And the more we can realize that we are constantly and totally changing, and if we can change with ease and grace, I think that that is so important for all of us. And Raven, I'm going to bring you in here because I know that you have opinions on this, and I want to hear them.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so delighted to be witnessing this conversation. And I've been thinking about how I've had to change. And just being in this place where I'm being allowed to sit back and ponder a little bit. I can, and we all can go here to look back in places where we thought our lives were either so fantastic or so incredibly miserable that there was no other end of the spectrum. And for me, one of the things that has happened lately is every once in a while, I observe myself in my life. And it's like I become outside of my body and I look, and I'm just suddenly incredibly aware of what I'm doing at that moment. And I've observed myself being massively depressed and thinking that would never change. And it happened again the other day. It's very spontaneous, it just happens. And I observed myself being so very happy and content. And the difference is always amazing to me. It's like, now when did all that happen? You know, it didn't happen on Tuesday the 14th and 6 years ago. You know, when did that happen? And our transformations, some people have huge epiphanies and huge things happen, and those are fabulous. And I'm sure they happen at Fire Circle. But so much of it happens in small, transitioning kind of ways, where you're trying to focus on something that you know needs to change within you. And I remember years ago reading Louise Hay, well, if you don't know how to change, be willing to change. And just say, I'm willing to change. I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing for this to be different. And inside of you, you're going, what the hell I am. But the words are, I'm willing. And you just keep saying that. And one day, by golly, it has changed. And you know, it's time to celebrate when that happens.
Yes. I think what you just said is so profound, Catherine, you know, that our words create our realities. And actually the word abracadabra comes from the ancient Aramaic avara kedavra, which means it is created as it is spoken. And I think the whole tradition of magic spells and enchantments really comes from this power of the word. You know, in some traditions they say in the beginning was the word, right? And the word really is vibration. You know, it is sound in movement. And everything that lives is moving in vibration and in pulsation. And when we bring the power of our minds to bear on the power of the voice and create these magic spells with our words, I am willing to transform. I am open to receive. I am grateful for all that is. That these magic spells really do ripple out from our mouths to the ears of all that listens. You know? And I think part of the awareness around transformation is recognizing that it is often uncomfortable, especially when it is happening quickly, and that isn't necessarily a reason to be afraid. you know, but just to have the awareness with merciful compassion, oh, I'm in a state of transition right now. I am always in a state of transition right now. The cells in my body are dying and being reborn every single day. With each exhale, I die, and with each inhale, I am born anew. You know, and that if the morning has just been awful and terrible and it's off to a very bad day starting, okay, maybe it was a very bad morning, and maybe now the afternoon can be good. Not to be attached to our stories of what was or what might yet be. You know what I mean?
I do.
I,
Yesterday I had an incredibly stressful morning at my job. And it started before I even sat down. And it was one thing after another, confrontational, problematic, physical things, emotion. I mean, it was a mess. And then I left and went to the New Mexico Spirit Women's Lunch, which is this group of networking with these wonderful women. And I just sat in my car for 5 minutes and listened to beautiful music and burned incense and just went. And I took that time to transition it out. And when I finally went in, it was great, and I'd left it behind. And I didn't used to know how to do that. I would just carry that with me, and I still forget sometimes.
Well, sure, we're all here to help each other.
It's vibrational. I had on beautiful music. I was burning white sage incense, and I just sat there and breathed.
Yep. I think that that's so true. You know, being able to consciously choose to use our senses to get out of our heads. Yes. You know, a lot of times I'll work with a client who's experiencing a lot of fear, and I'll say, okay, at this moment, look around. Is there a threat? Is there a bad man breaking in the house right now? No. Okay, so when I look around, I can see with my eyes that everything is okay. Smell. What do you smell? Is the house on fire? Is there something right now to be really afraid of that you can smell? No. Okay, what about listen? Do you hear anything that's really frightening? No. What about tasting? Do you have like a bitter almond, like I've been poisoned taste in your mouth? No. Okay, what about what are you feeling? Are you bleeding? No. Okay. Then if all your senses are telling you that there is no emergency, maybe you can take a deep breath. And if you can control your breath, you can control your heart rate. And if you can control your heart rate, you can control your emotional state of being. But to use our bodies, to use these wonderful tools and machines that we are inhabiting, to be able to change our state of mind and our state of emotion, and to have the awareness and the remembrance that we have the power to transform in that way is a miracle, is a huge...
It's magic.
It really is. It really is. You know, I love the metaphor of vibration. You know, that all beings are vibrating if they are alive, right? And that sometimes in our relationships, either with others or with an aspect of ourselves, we come into a place that's not very harmonious. It might even be dissonant sometimes. And we can't really do anything about the other person's vibration. We can't really make someone more harmonious with us, but we can transform our own vibrations. We can make our own vibration purer, clearer, a higher tone. And if we can raise our vibration enough, we will come into harmony with whatever that sour note is that's coming in our direction, right? So with my students, we talk about how do we change our vibration? Well, by using our senses, by breathing deeply, by journaling, by practicing our art, by dancing, by making love, by eating pure food, by drinking water. When you start thinking about it, there are countless ways that we can raise our vibrations. It's just remembering to do it in those moments of dissonance.
And Barbara says, I keep incense in my car and Abby's album. So let's talk a little bit about Abby's album.
I actually have several albums, and you can find them all on cdbaby.com. If you search for Abigail McBride, there are a couple of audio books, one of which Gloria is on, called The Heart of the Sun, which is a collection of readings in exaltation of the goddess Sekhmet. There's also the audiobook of Anne Key's wonderful Desert Priestess, her memoir of spending time at the temple here outside Las Vegas. And then there are, I think, currently 4 of my albums there. This is all music that has been born in fire, music from the sacred fire circles. Some of them have become pagan anthems over time. And they are great to keep in the car, to give as gifts, to enjoy listening to. And I'm working on a new album now, which I'm hoping will be out either the end of this year or early next year. So.
Well, I had the supreme honor of hearing you drum and chant inside the Sekhmet Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very, talk about transformational. That was a very transformational weekend. And I'm very honored that I was able to be there with such a fine group of women, and your music was beautiful. So if anyone has not listened to Abigail's music, oh yeah,
Thank you.
It's the real deal.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really grateful. You know, the very first chant I ever wrote was called "Let the Way Be Open," and the words say, "Sing through my voice, play through my hands, let the way be open." And this really was my invitation to the consciousness that is all over to use me as a channel, as a tool, as an instrument. And the deal that I make with Spirit is, okay, you sing those songs into my ear, you whisper them to me, I'll sing them to everyone at the fire circle, and we'll all sing them back to you in harmony, you know, and this seems to work very well.
Well, I think I just wanted to bring that up while she was mentioning it so that all the people who are listening later on YouTube would know what we're talking about as I broadcast that question. But, you know, one of the things that I know is as we develop our practices, as we walk deeper into our own transformation, more and more we select who we will be with. Mm-hmm. And we choose not to be with those that interfere with peace and harmony. And in as much as we can humanly do that. I mean, there are times whenever we still end up in positions where we have to deal with the DMV, and maybe the person behind the door, the counter is having a bad day. Mm-hmm. But what I know is that as we move into this part of the practice, as we move into where we are accepting our transformation on a regular basis, we transform not only ourselves, but we transform the world around us.
That is so true. That is so true, Gloria. You know that there are 7 stages in the alchemical process that correspond to the 7 visible planets in our solar system and also correspond with our 7 chakras, right? But there is an 8th step, which is the step called Multipla. Mm-hmm. And in this phase, we have gone through all the processes to transform this lead into gold. And now that we have this bit of gold, it becomes the philosopher's stone, which means that anything that it touches also turns to gold. So exactly as you were just saying, as we reach maturity in our practices, as we grow in our own devotional wholeness and make wise choices about where we choose to spend our time and our energy, we find that we are able to affect positive change in all of those around us. And for me, really, conjuring magic plays a huge role in that. Because if I go into the DMV, and the very first thing I do when I come up to the young lady who's having a terrible day's desk is to magically produce a little rose, and I say, this is a gift for you. Her whole reality has just been completely shifted. She's like, oh. And what we say at the magic school, related to gift magic, is that if you give someone something they don't usually get, they're likely to give you something they don't usually give. And so we open the way to reciprocity and gratitude and appreciation from the get-go, from jump, before I even say hello. It's, what's that? Oh, look, for you. And in this way, the interactions that I have at the DMV, at the UPS store, at the bank, become ever so much pleasant, because then the next time I come in, even if I don't do any magic, it's like, oh, she's here, there's that girl. Come here, you got, and there's all this positive energy that comes from it. For something as simple as a little wired rose that I get at Michael's for a nickel. So it's I think magic can be transformational in many different ways.
Yeah, I loved your video where you were doing magic, and it was a little longer than I wanted to use on the registration page, but I do recommend that it is out there on YouTube, so watch it. It will give you a better understanding of what we're talking about with Abigail's magic, because it's truly remarkable. It's not big screen making the Empire State Building disappear.
No camera tricks.
It's very, very close up and very, very much about who she is as much as who you are. So the presence is apparent in the magic. And I believe that's true with all magicians. I think that the presence, the person, comes through. And who we are makes our magic, whatever kind of magic we do, whether it's Raven's tarot readings or Abigail's magic and music and what have you, that she does so well. Our presence is communicated through.
That's so true. It really is about presence, which brings us back to awareness and paying attention. And I think that, a gifted tarot reader is able to pay attention and notice what's going on with the person who is being read for, to know what directions to go and to what guidance to offer. And I think for us to really be able to be fully present, we need to be in alignment. Right? And when I talk about alignment, I'm talking about that our thoughts and our words that we're saying and the feeling that we have in our heart and our will center and our creativity and our fire, that all of this is in alignment and saying yes to the same thing. Because if we're thinking one thing and saying another and feeling something else, the recipient of that is going to know that there's not full presence here. Oh, she's saying, I'm fine, but her jaw is tight and she's looking away, and I know she's not fine. And now I don't know where to go. Do I address this? Do I not address? And it leads to confusion and disharmony. But when there is that pure tone of alignment going through all 7 of our energy centers, then we're really able to be present, and that's when the magic can really happen.
I think that's so true. And I was sitting here thinking about it, and Abigail is a high priestess, the god of the family of fire. Raven is a high priestess of water. I'm a high priestess of earth. We should have somebody who's air on here. Do we have any air?
That would be Caitlin Breen. That would be Caitlin.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yes. Or Miss Nikki.
Oh, yes. Well, Nikki kind of trances across all of them. We're talking about Nikki Scully, who's our beloved teacher and friend, and she's doing her thing as a grandmother. So,
she and her friend Normandy Ellis just came out with a wonderful book. Have you seen it? Have you seen The Union of Thoth and Isis? I got to see a draft of it. I got to see an early manuscript of it when they were here, when Normandy was here for our Mysterium gathering in February. This book is amazing.
It'll be out in November.
Anything that Normandy Ellis or Nikki Scully has written, I wholeheartedly recommend checking out.
I agree with you, and we adore Normandy at a level that well, I wrote a book with her, so after all, I must really love her. But she's one of my favorite girlfriends, and she is so brilliant and so humble at the same time. And that book will be available for the general public in November.
Excellent.
So it will be finished by then. And
is it called The Union of Isis and Thoth, something like that?
Yeah, Union of Isis and Thoth. It's Nikki and Normandy. And then Nikki's new book on Sekhmet in the Belly of the Goddess will be available next year.
Excellent.
But also, and this is kind of a weird thing, but we just found out that Awakening Osiris, Normandy's original book, which is a retranslation of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, is available on Staples. And it's kind of like oh wow, she has arrived. But it's a wonderful book, and it's a book of basically the poetry that comes from the walls of the pyramids. But getting back to our...
It's one of my favorite books to use. I'm sorry, it's one of my favorite books to use for bibliomancy.
Oh,
That's one of my favorite books. Just flip open, read out loud, and see what the wisdom is coming through.
It's become a staple for all of us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I thought it was appropriate that it was now available from Staples.
Yes.
So getting back to you, Abigail, as you are moving through this process where you are bringing in all these different skills, all these different, I mean, it's obvious you are, from the sounds of it, becoming an incredible counselor. I mean, I'd love to be counseled by you. So, you know, you obviously have it down. And where is it that you see yourself going next?
Well, I see myself continuing on the path that I'm on. You know, I see myself continuing to deepen into my practices with dance, with movement, with chanting and singing. I've recently started teaching a new class once a month here in Las Vegas. It's called Mantra Meditation Class, and it happens on the third Monday of every month. I'm very blessed to be in the company of some incredibly fine musicians. Our dear friend Shivani Ugran just moved to India, but for the past 5 years, Shivani and I, along with Jay Atwood, a former conductor of Le Cirque du Soleil shows, and Dr. Joshua Levin, anthropologist and tabla player extraordinaire. The four of us have been playing kirtan music together, devotional singing call and response music together here in Las Vegas for 5 years. And out of that has grown this mantra meditation class for people who are interested in learning more about the magic of the vibration of sound. So I see myself continuing to grow and deepen in my learning so that I can deepen in my teaching with that. I see myself continuing to create music and to bring forward the music that arises around the fire circle. And I see myself, you know, continuing to work with my beloved husband, Jeff, and growing our magic school. We are transforming the art of performance magic one magician at a time. We have a beautiful magic and mystery school here in Las Vegas. We have students coming in from all over the world to study with us. And it's really very exciting.
I've looked at the offerings of your school. I've been on Jeff's email list for a number of years now, and I always read it and look at it and wish I could come and take the classes.
Sure.
Now, are you sounds like, though, you're now doing the classes online?
We have an online school at virtual.magicalwisdom.com, and we also have the live learning here in Las Vegas at magicalwisdom.com. And we also have a live stream TV show that we do every Monday evening at McBrideMagic.tv. And there are, you know, rebroadcasts going on all the time. Right now, you could go and watch a back episode. So there's a lot of magic happening here on a lot of different levels.
So Jonathan would like to know, what does being a priestess mean to you? And how do you see the role of priestess expanding throughout society? Good question, Jonathan.
Good question. Well, for the first part, I think the role of priestess, for me, it's primarily about being of service. It's primarily about finding ways to serve spirit, to serve community, and to help things grow toward the highest good. You know, I think as a priestess, it's important to have the awareness of what's going on within and around you, and it depends on the venue that you're in. You know, it used to be that the priest was the intermediary between the petitioner and the divine, and that the petitioner wasn't able to connect with the divine directly. They had to go through the priest or priestess. And also, you know, if you go back to ancient Delphi, you see the priestess as the oracle, you know, that she would transmit the messages from beyond to the petitioner, right? But more and more, I think the job of the priestess is to facilitate each individual being able to connect directly to their own source, to their own center of spirit, and, you know, bringing forward that mentality of being of service, of looking around at, you know, in my case, at the fire circle and asking myself inside, what can I do that would raise the vibration of this moment? I know I can go get a platter of fresh strawberries from the food altar and bring it around to offer to people. That would raise the vibration, or whatever the moment may be. And in terms of how do I see the role of the priestess expanding, I think there's more and more of us who are feeling the call to be of service, to help people connect to spirit. And I think that really it's about trusting your own inner guidance for anyone who's feeling called to the path, of going where spirit pulls you, and of waiting to move until that which moves all else moves you to move, of being patient and trusting and listening and showing up, and being willing with a glad heart and open hands to do what you are guided to do. I think if we're coming at it from like, oh geez, I have to go to Circle tonight and light those candles and be there for those people, better that you stay home. If you don't have the glad heart and the willing spirit, don't do it, because true service comes from a pure heart. And I think that's really the role of the priestess, is growing as more and more of us raise our vibrations and come to a place of really wanting to be of service to those around us.
Yeah, Ruth Barrett says the priestess is the one who scrapes the candle wax off the floor after everyone else is gone, and is happy to do it.
Yep, we say the real wizards are the ones who show up first and leave last. It's really true. It's really true. And if anyone is interested in learning more about the sacred fire circles that we do, I would welcome you to look at our website. It's vegasvortex.com. And if you're interested in learning more about the magic school, look at magicalwisdom.com. We have a robust scholarship program for our magic school. We've given away over $20,000 in scholarships over the past couple of years. And so if finances are the only thing that are keeping you away from being able to follow your magical dreams, well, we can help erase that roadblock for you. And I really hope that people will continue to grow their own hearts and to find out within themselves what they can do to help others.
Andrew Spike, I don't know if that's two people or one person.
That's one person.
Don't delay to take the mystery school, and the online live stream is very informative.
Yes, Andrew has been to a number of our events. He raises wolves. He's a very interesting fellow.
Ooh, I like wolves.
Yes, we all do. And I'm glad to see you here, Spike. Thanks for showing.
Yeah, so it's part of this is, as we define a priestess in a gathering of priestesses and in our group, it's a woman, and if you're a man, you're a priest, okay? It's a woman who serves the divine through her hands, through her mouth, through her eyes, and does the work that she believes that she was sent here to do. So it's not a lot about going out and, waving incense around or telling other people what to do. Oh my God, you never get to tell anybody else what to do because they never do it anyway. Just little riff on that one. And so the way we are a priestess is that we know in our hearts and our souls that we are here to serve, and that our service will take many different forms. Whether it is working with the wolves, which I think is really cool, and I know a really cool woman in Georgia who does that, and if it is working with people who are sick, if it is working with those who are children, working with children, and giving them the opportunity that Abby had to say, hey, I'm interested in ESP, fine, here's some tools, go and try it out.
I think it really is about meeting people where they're at. Not just in our magic circles or around our sacred fires, but as we take the magic out into the world, and trying to see, like, how can I be of service in any given moment, you know? Can I give a compliment to a stranger? Ooh, I love your dress, and make that person smile and therefore raise their vibration. Can I hold the door for somebody? Can I smile at, you know, it's like, what can I do in any given moment, wherever I am in the world, to meet this person right where they're at and help them to take one step closer to becoming their highest vision? You know, I think that that's really it, Gloria. You nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's about, rising to our own highest and best good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm broadcasting right now a comment from Jeff, which says, hello all, you can watch Abigail on episodes of The Mystery School at www.mcbridemagic.tv. Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate that, and we'll make sure that that's included in the listing on YouTube. And Chris would like to know, do priest and priestess have different types of work? How do the two complement each other?
That's very interesting. You know, I think that it's really the same kind of work, and the ESS at the end is just something we tag on for gender. You know, and in my world, there's a number of transgender folks and folks who dance on both sides of that line. And I think that if the inclination is there to be of service and to help others to grow, that it isn't really important if the ESS is there or not. I think the core value, though, has to do with service and has to do with willingness to show up with a glad heart and a willing spirit.
I agree, and I think that there was a time whenever people were trying to get the term preost, which is Preost, which means it is a non-gender term for priest. And it's just, in English, it's too difficult.
Yes.
What I found recently is that in Tagalog, in Filipino language, they have no gender. Their language, so frequently they will refer to my husband as she, and refer to me as he, and it's because their language, as they translate it in their head, they don't have that gender difference. That the words are neutral in this fact.
I think the real gender balance for the priestess is the magician. You know, in the tarot deck, there's the mage is number 1 and the high priestess is number 2. And when Jeff and I first started working together, we were thinking about, well, what do we want Abigail's role on stage to be? And we were both very clear that I'm not going to be the bimbo in spandex with sequins. That ain't going to happen. So we decided very early on that I would be the priestess to his mage, and that we would be equals on stage, different yet equal. You know, so that my character on stage is refined. I'm not wearing uber revealing costumes. You know, that I'm there as a woman who is respected, not as a get in the box kind of girl. You know, and so having that balance where both the mage and the priestess are empowered and powerful beings who respect each other and help each other to grow, I think that that's the kind of balance that that is really going to be most beneficial for all.
I agree, and I think that's a great comment. And I want to go back one comment here. Andrew wanted you to repeat the comment about leave last.
The real wizards are the ones who show up first and leave last. So they're the ones who, at our monthly Wonderground show, they're the ones who show up at 3 in the afternoon and are setting up the chairs and are there at 11:30 at night taking down the curtains. Like those are the real wizards. So.
Yeah, I love that. For many years, the person who's in charge of my business, which is called Alchemy Arts, is the chief wizard. And for many years, it was my husband. And now that he can't fulfill that role, I am the chief wizard. And I have been questioned that a wizard cannot be a woman. What do you have to say about that?
Well, it's very interesting. You know, we get into the whole discussion of, you know, women in magic and women magicians. And, you know, again, we go back to the oracles of Delphi, who were some of the first women magicians. And, you know, I think that the archetype of the mage tends to be more gender-based toward the masculine gender. and the priestess tends to be more gender-based toward the feminine. Although, as in any binary, you're going to find people that dance on either side. My friend Arian Black is one of the finest magicians, and she is beautiful and comes out in the tuxedo and produces the doves as well as any man ever could, you know. So wizard tends to be the older male of the mage, and the saga or the sage tends to be the older version of the woman, of the priestess, right? So labels and names aren't really that important. If, Gloria, you know what you are doing in your role of wizard is coordinating all the myriad of details behind the scenes so that alchemy arts can be the amazing gift that it is to all of us. You know, and the label itself, I don't think is really that important. I think when we get caught up in labels of identity, that sort of is a time waster. You know what I mean?
I agree, and it's one of those things that sometimes I get a little, you know, sometimes there's that fingernail that scratches on the backboard that bothers you. You know, it's like having a wizard whenever you're a woman. Well, I am. Just get over it.
Speaking of fingernails, I have something to show all of you. You know, part of what I do in the world is I'm a massage therapist, and I work with clients in the casinos, mostly high rollers and other well-to-do folks that the casino will bring me in to offer massage therapy for while they are playing their $50,000 a hand blackjack games. And one of the things that I love to do is to send my energy of love and of blessings into whoever I'm working with. And one of my favorite things that happens is no sooner do I put my hands on somebody than he or she goes, "Oh, I want to double the time I said I wanted with you," before I've even done anything. So I wanted to share a little exercise that we can all do together interactively as a way that we can get a sense of what this kind of energy feels like. Does that sound good as a way of bringing us back closure? Okay, so I learned this technique from my very first drumming teacher, who was a man named Babatunde Olatunji. And what he had us do was to hold up our fingers like this, with the tips of the fingers curled down, and then we're going to rub the fingernails together very quickly. You don't have to press hard, but you have to move both hands, and you have to move them very fast. And the idea is that you concentrate on the feeling of love in your heart, and you bring that feeling of love right into those fingertips that you're rubbing together very, very fast. Keep going. Don't stop yet. When you do stop, I'm going to have you hold your hands like this. Okay, we're going to count to 3. Keep going. 1, 2, 3. Go like this. And notice what you notice. If you're sensitive, you may feel some tingling, you may feel some energy, you may feel some warmth, all tinged with the hue of love. And I invite you to take that ball of energy and put it someplace on your body that needs that love right now. So send it to yourself wherever that may be. And breathe that love in. And know that just as we are all conscious beings in this moment, we are all connected through the web of consciousness, through the web of life. And my prayer at this moment in time is that all beings everywhere may be happy, may have enough to eat, may feel safe, and may know the joy of their own inner consciousness. Gloria, Catherine, I'm so deeply grateful to have had this time with you today. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you, Abigail. It's been a joy.
And thank you. I really appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to end this morning. And thank you so much for making the time to be with us. And I hope that those that are watching this will realize that you have had a rare opportunity. This is a brilliant, brilliant priestess.
Thank you, Gloria. If anyone has any questions, feel free to email me directly. I am spinner@mcbridemagic.com. Thank you all.
Thank you. And Raven, thank you so much for being present and holding the energy as you always do. And we can reach you at KatherineRavenwood.com, KATHRYN, Ravenwood. That's correct. Okay, and you will see us here next week, not this week. We're going to take a week off of a gathering of Priestess with Maya White, who is an astrologer. We look forward to seeing you. Love you all. Thank you so much, and good morning.